What's going on, guys? Today's video is going to be branching off from the last video I posted, which is going to be light stuff. So today's video is going to be talking about the Surefire M600 stuff versus the Surefire M300 stuff. Now, before you go and tell me, well, this isn't an M300, it's got a weird mount on it. Yes, it technically is an M300 just because it is a single cell versus a dual cell M600. The only difference between these two lights is the activation method and the actual bodies themselves. So this is a Bobra Engineering scout light mount, really good mount, made a video on it. I'll put a card in the corner, do whatever I need to do, but this is what stays on my rifles and this is what stays on my helmet. But the lights are the exact same, with the only real difference affecting their output and stuff being the heads. Now this is the KM2-C, which is the 2-cell specific Surefire head for your M600s, while this is the KM1E, which is going to be your single cell specific M300 light head. So make sure if you're building out a light and you want a Surefire head that you get the proper head for the proper body you're going to be using. You don't want to be using the KM1 single cell stuff on a 2-cell housing like this. You might run into some issues and you might burn the head out. I don't know for sure if it'll actually break it, but I would just recommend that you use the right stuff on the right light. So we'll dive in a little closer and kind of talk about the differences between the two lights. All right, so jumping right in here on the M300, so this is on an S&S Precision Max mount, but this is technically still a Surefire M300 with a clicky tail cap and your KM1E head. So I'll put the exact rating for this head somewhere in the corner in terms of output, just so I don't mess it up because I don't know off the top of my head. But this is what I use on my helmet. Works out really nice. It's going to be a little bit dimmer than your M600, obviously, just because it's running off one CR123 as opposed to two. But both these heads are going to work the same, so I'm not going to go too in depth. But you have your off setting, your IR setting, and then on the left here, you're going to have your white setting. And to switch between the two on both these heads is just forced to overcome, so you just have to twist the head. One thing I will say is be careful that you don't accidentally twist the light head off. Even with it screwed all the way on, I still notice if you go to white sometimes and you twist a little too hard, it will tend to unthread itself, so just be aware of that. The older Surefire stuff used to have a ring that you would pull out or pull back, I can't remember, it's been so long, and then you would twist the head from there. I really like that system, but it was a very big head design, so kind of glad they slimmed it down with this guy. So we'll jump over to the M600, kind of go over that and put the numbers in the corner and whatever, and then we'll go outside, test them both, show you guys what the beam patterns look like, and then you guys can kind of make a decision what's going to work best for you. All right, so jumping over, this is the M600 body. Technically, this is an Arasaka body, but again, it doesn't really deviate how the light functions or the beam on it. That all comes down to the head. KM2C, same deal, just the 2-cell version head. So you're going to have your white, off, and IR function. Again, this is all forced to overcome, so be careful when twisting it. You might accidentally start to unthread the light, which would be no good. So only difference between the two is going to be tail caps. This one is going to be using a Surefire switch just because I don't have a clicky switch available to test them both at the same time. So we'll be using clicky tail cap on here and the SR07 on this guy. So we'll jump outside real quick, show you guys the difference in the beam patterns and kind of help gauge the difference between an M300 versus a 600. Both of these are on pretty freshly charged batteries, or freshly as in new, not charged. These aren't rechargeables. I am going to be using the Surefire brand lithium batteries in both of these guys, so it should be a pretty neck and neck test in terms of variables, so you guys can see what the difference is going to be on these two specific white and IR heads in terms of a 300 versus a 600. So we'll jump outside, show you guys those, and then hop back in here and wrap up the video. All right, guys, so we're back in my super secret undisclosed test location, aka my backyard. Just like last time, about the same distance from the shed. On the left here is going to be your M300, while on the right is going to be your M600. Again, both these lights are going to be about 6 feet off the ground, so you can gauge kind of the spill in front of them in terms of like shoulder height. So starting out with the M300 on the left here, as you can see, you get a pretty nice hot spot with a pretty decent flood. You get good illumination off the ground here. Again, this is the single cell M300. Switching over here to the M600, as you can see here, very similar in terms of beam patterns, with a nice spill on the ground in front of you with a pretty nice hot spot all the way out on the shed. So I'll try and get both of these to fire up at the same time here so you guys can see. So that's going to be kind of your difference between the two. Very similar. I will say in person, the M600 is just, this guy right here, the M600 is just a little bit brighter than the M300. Overall, both pretty similar in terms of beam patterns and spill. The main difference you're going to get is, I think, lumens. I'll put both the lumens for an M300 with this head and the M600 with this head in the description and on the video, just so you guys can see. But main difference is going to be a little bit of lumen output and runtime. So we'll hop back inside, go over closing thoughts on both of these lights, and tell you what I would pick for different things and why. All right guys, I almost forgot to show you the IR functions on both of these. So this is going to be the M300 in IR, so the single cell through my PVS-15s here. As you can see, pretty similar in terms of what the IR spectrum is. I do apologize if the film for this is a little bit crappier. It is kind of hard to hold my phone and PVS-15s, but that is the M300. So we'll switch over here and grab the 600 series light. Again, I do apologize if stuff's kind of wonky. So let me get, there we go. There is the 600 series. As you can see, pretty similar beam pattern under IR. Both really good lights. Really like both of these guys. So we'll cut back inside and show you guys kind of my final thoughts on both of these. All right, jumping back in here, back inside. Final thoughts on both these lights. Both really good lights. I really like the Surefire white and IR heads. I like the IR features on these a little bit more so than the white. The white isn't going to be as bright as something like Surefire's dedicated white stuff, but if you need the ability to switch and do it on the fly, these are really, really good options from Surefire. If you want an M300, I'd recommend this on something like an SNS Max for maybe a helmet, or put a small body on it with some sort of mount and put it on a short gun. Well, I'll recommend the M600 stuff for something like a 14.5 or maybe a 16-inch gun where rail space isn't as much of an issue. But again, at the end of the day, it all comes down to what you guys want and what you need out of your lights. If you have any questions, comments, or if I missed anything, feel free to let me know down below. And as always, thank you guys for watching.